On the last episode, I have transformed these 3D printed molds into this outstanding carbon fiber fuselage. This is for my new project, the LED 410. I have showed you the exact process of how I was building this carbon fiber fuselage. And if you haven't seen that, just click up here and you can see the last episode. Welcome to part 2 of the LED 410 project. Today's episode is all about the fuselage surface. Yep, it's not done at all. In fact, there's a lot of work involved to achieve a very nice surface of the fuselage. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm really happy of how this turned out, but there are some things we have to do. So the fuselage now is freshly demolded. From a distance it looks pretty smooth, but if you look closer you can see many tiny holes in the surface. In this video I will fill all the holes and make the surface ready for painting. Thank you very much to all who commented on the last video. I learned a lot. One comment said that I should better use a piping bag instead of a brush to apply the thicker epoxy on the elevations in the mold. That's exactly what I'm going to do next time. And another comment said that I was mixing the thicker epoxy wrong. I mean, I mixed it with microballoons only, and as I was explaining that in the last video, that led to a very weak epoxy and it also had a lot of air stuck inside. That's why I asked my friend Ramy what he thinks about this, and he told me that mixing the thicker epoxy only with microballoons will give me the best possible result.
No, I did not tell you that. I told you, yes, use some microballoons, but just a little bit, you know. Don't pour it like you're pouring concrete, you know, just a bit of microballoons on these corners, and then the fabric will follow it perfectly. Just a little bit.
Yep, maybe, whatever. And I also had a comment saying I should use a vacuum system for these big molds. That would prevent a lot of air under the fabric. I like the idea, but as I was explaining in the last video, a vacuum system would simply destroy the whole mold within a second because the mold itself is printed very thin. There's a lot of air inside the mold. The mold itself is not designed for a vacuum system, it's designed for us to get 3, 4, maybe 5 fuselage and then the project is done. I feel like that a lot of things that I was doing in the last video can be done differently to maybe get an even better result. But whatever you do to prepare the mold or to maybe apply a gel coat or whatever, the time needed is about the same. So you either spend that before or after. For me, I will spend the time after for sure with sanding, filling and painting. That's exactly what we're going to do now, so let's get to work. So this is not good for your health, especially for your lungs, so you better use this outside, otherwise. So this has a working time of 4 to 5 minutes, but the problem I always have is the powder should be mixed within 2 to 3% of the weight of this. And how the hell should you be able to weight this small weight? I have no idea. So I better use a bit more than a bit too less. This almost looks like I have a bird with a medical problem in my garden. I have many holes. This is dry now. After maybe a few hours, this is already ready to sand, and now it's time to sand this down as much as possible without destroying the actual fabric, the fiberglass, which would be the outer layer of the whole fuselage. We don't want to touch that. And now I show you step by step how I sanded the fuselage in real time. I have around 20 hours of footage ready for you. Wait, what? Who wrote that script? I uploaded the whole footage in real time, just me sanding. Click up here to see the video. If you'd like to help my channel, just let it roll in the background. Thank you! Alright, the first layer of filler is almost off and it did fill the holes, but I have to repeat the whole process again because some holes are still not filled completely. I know I won't be filling every hole perfectly, but I want to get rid of most holes. But in preparation to the next filler round, let's first get rid of layer number 1 of the filler with this amazing camera slider footage. That's totally worth a like, right? To actually reach the bottom of the holes and the area where the filler has to really fill parts, it's necessary to remove the rest of the loose epoxy and PVA that was in the mold. The filler has to directly touch the raw fabric, otherwise it won't stick to it. Cleaning is key. The 3D printed molds are not perfect. That means on the lower fuselage side, the two halves did not align well. There is a slight elevation from one to the other side. Since there is enough material, I can easily try to remove that elevation a bit by sanding the raw fabric down. The filler will do the rest of the job. Before going for filler round 2, I have to make sure the surface is as clean as possible. I try to remove all the dust and fingerprints with a vacuum and by cleaning it wet. It is so satisfying to see the holes being filled. I wish the sanding part would be the same speed. I am also always between using too much filler and filling the hole at all. There is no in between.
Ah, shit.
Since the filler has only a working time of around 4 to 5 minutes, I need to know exactly where I want to put it before using it. That makes it much easier to work with if you mark the spots before. Next round, filling. I realized it's better to mix smaller portions than bigger portions because the filler gets hard too fast. I rather mix the filler a couple of times than stress out using the mixed filler. If you start searching for spots on the fuselage that need filler, you never end this work. So at some point I have to stop, otherwise I end up filling the whole fuselage in one piece. It's more about the big holes and the areas that are clearly visible on the finished painted fuselage. Even though my standard is high, the patience slowly decreases during work. Also, at the end of the video, I'll use another method to fill the rest of the remaining holes. So watch till the end. Yes, I know this looks horrible. So much filler. To everyone out there working with molding carbon fiber parts, sorry. But this is all about learning and fun. Just wait for the result. So I recognized a bit of a problem here because I cannot really see where I should remove much more filler and where I should better not remove any filler at all. As you can see, I'm using this big sanding thing and I like it because it saves me a lot of time, but it also gives me the problem that I cannot really see all the different layers, how these layers interact with the fuselage itself. Let me show you. From this side, there is no elevation between the actual fuselage and the filler, but if you put the light to the other side, there is a small elevation visible. What makes it so hard to sand is 1, there is a bit of a flex in the carbon. As soon as you put too much pressure to the fuselage surface, the fuselage slightly bends inside and leads to a wrong sanding area. And second, it is really hard to see the elevation during sanding. The best method is still using your hand and feeling it. When there is only a slight elevation left, I also switch to this sanding sponge. It gives me much more control over how much filler I remove, because the sanding process is much slower. And then there are areas where you have way too much filler, so I go back to my sanding thing. And by the way, I have used I think 20 of these. This is 120 grit, so I eat them like nothing. The best method to find out whether you have to sand more or not is still using the feeling of your hand gliding over the surface of the fuselage. Even tiny elevations can be spotted this way. Okay, but sometimes it can be handy to use a light to find big filling or sanding mistakes, like this one. It was so hard to see it, but the light helped to find it. After carefully going over the surface with my hand, I found several spots that needed more attention. So I was busy sanding down parts of the filler to achieve a nice transition from filler to fabric. The goal is to not see the use of filler after the fuselage is painted. The result? Many filled holes. And I could have sworn the surface looked much better before adding the filler. Well, so as you could see, I already spent many hours sanding and filling, and I'm slowly getting where I want this to be. However, I will add a very last layer. So the whole process repeats. I found myself sanding again in my workshop faster than I could say. I will try to finish this in 1 month.
I will try to finish it in 1 month.
So at this very spot here, you can see that the filler is not sticking to the fuselage very well. The filler is coming off in huge parts. That means when applying the filler, the surface was not dust-free enough. That's the reason I always, at least I try, to clean the surface wet, so most of the dust will come off. That's all it is. Let's continue. You see, the problem I have is not that they don't sand, but rather that they don't stick to the machine anymore. You know what, the hardest part during sanding is to follow the natural shape of the fuselage. The filler sometimes hides the gap and the round shape, and that makes it hard to follow it. What's helping in this case is to get back to the hand sanding tool. You might ask yourself, is he really doing a video only about filling and sanding the fuselage?
Is he only doing a video about sanding and filling the fuselage?
Is he really going to do a video just on filling and sanding the fuselage?
Yes, you're right, but I'll skip the rest of the sanding footage right now and show you something more interesting. Yeah, I think we should skip the sanding part. Which is painting. Nah, not really painting, we're gonna use a spray filler, but with that we can get a perfectly flat surface, ready for the paint, or if we want to use vinyl, also possible. Before that, I have to cut all the overlay from the molds, all the fabric I don't need, and I can finally use my favorite tool of all time, the Dremel 8-60. Without this tool, there would be no project possible, so thank you so much, Dremel, for the support over the years. I really love this. So let's get to work. At first, I was sanding away the extra filler I was accidentally having where I did not want to have it. That was simple by using a small round tool for the Dremel. This cutting tool easily slides through the 3 layers of fabric. To cut precisely, I either used the existing edge from the mold, marked it with a pen, or used some tape. Especially on round areas, I cut to the approximate line and then sanded the rest with another Dremel sanding tool. To prevent any sharp edges, every cutted part has to be sanded again by hand. Alright, so front is done, let's get to the back. After the carpet is cut to its approximate location, I am using the sanding sponge again to prevent any sharp edges. And I remove some remains of the filler with a Dremel sanding tool. This is also great to do some detail work on the corners. The small lip you can see here is later being used to securely glue on the wing box, which is another piece made of carbon. But that's for one of the next episodes, so you better subscribe to not miss that. The back was really simple. The 3D printed mold already has a nice elevation in it, so I can see where I have to cut the fiberglass. After all the hard work, congratulations if you made it so far through the video. Now comes the grand epic finale, applying the spray filler. Enjoy! This is a total success, at least almost. As you could just see, through the spray filler, the holes I did not fill because I did not really see, just came to light. This is something I will have to finish before the final paint job or vinyl is being applied. So, the first layer of spray filler is done. I let this dry now for a bit of a while, and after that I can sand this wet, so the surface will have a really soft and nice finish in the end. After wet sanding, the surface is looking really promising. Sure, there are still some tiny holes, but that's not a problem, since we will now first focus on working on the inner structure and the wings. The spray filler was really helpful. It not only filled the tiny microscopic holes in the surface of the fabric, but it also revealed one spot on the front of the fuselage where I have to continue working on. The outer fuselage is now ready for further work from the inside of the fuselage, and that's exactly what I'm going to do next. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, I really appreciate that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. On the next episodes, we will custom CNC cut and assemble the wings and the inner structure of the fuselage. So subscribe to not miss that.
Ay, ay, ay.